Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Hall of Fame Open and Chat with Champions. It's our opportunity each morning during tournament week to get to know some of our players just a little bit better. And today I am joined by a 20-year-old American, Jensen Brooksby. It's great to see you here in Newport.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
First time playing a professional tournament on grass. You got your first win yesterday. How are you feeling on these courts?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I've enjoyed practicing on the grass so far, getting used to it, and I'm excited to play again tomorrow.
How many times had you played on grass before you came here to Newport?
I haven't actually. I didn't play Wimbledon, so it was my first tournament on grass ever here, and got here a few days early, and I enjoyed playing on the grass so far.
Unbelievable. All right, so again, you're a newer face here for a lot of our fans in Newport. Let's go back to the beginning. I want to know your origin story, and we talked a little bit about it on the court yesterday, but you like to hit up against your garage as sort of a wall of sorts. How did you get started playing tennis? Why did you first put a racket in your hand?
My parents both played for years before me. They were actually taught by the same coach I'm still with today, Joseph Gilbert, and but yeah, they love the sport, both of them, and they introduced me to it, and it ended up being my favorite sport, no doubt.
Unbelievable. So at what point did you think, okay, like, I'm maybe better than average at this?
I mean, pretty young, maybe 10 or so. I mean, or 12, somewhere in there. I always felt I had a higher skill set in tennis than the other sports.
What is it about tennis that you love?
Individual aspect, competing, the decision making, everything is up to me and no one else. So there's no excuses out there. It's all you, and I just love that responsibility and just enjoying being able to play myself.
Good stuff. So you like being under pressure? Would you say
Yeah.
you're a good pressure player?
Yeah, I like pressure. I mean, that's what I live to play for. Honestly, is like all the training, all that stuff. I love I just love going out there, and it's up to you. I really enjoy that.
So you were planning on playing college tennis, from what I understand. You were committed to Baylor, or had decided that you probably were going to go to Baylor,
Yeah.
and then plans changed. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in the fall of 2019, I committed to, I knew I was going to Baylor, and I was there January in the spring season to start out. And then in March, COVID hit, so I went home. But I knew I was going for one season, and then after that, I decided to turn pro. But that was, I wasn't able to play there, but it was still a cool experience.
Interesting. So what has been the toughest transition, I guess, to the professional world? Obviously, playing junior events in the U.S. is going to be different than traveling the world playing challenger tournaments. So what's been the biggest challenge?
Yeah, I feel I was more prepared than usual. I played more pro tournaments as a junior, like futures and challengers and things like this. I didn't play as much of the junior circuit, so I felt pretty prepared going in. But it is different when it's week in, week out of this life, rather than like it's like less tournaments before I was pro. So it's just more preparing for it week in, week out, all the matches. But I feel I've transitioned well.
What's been your favorite part?
I mean, just getting to compete more, honestly. I mean, before it wasn't as many tournaments, and this year I've had a lot more matches, and I mean that's really the most exciting part about the sport and this job to me is just being able to go out there and thankfully in front of fans now. But either way, really, it's just getting to compete in a match situation.
You said you had a lot of matches this year. You are not overselling that. You're 21-2 on the Challenger Tour this year. Absolutely incredible numbers, lots of wins. What do you feel like is clicking?
I mean, I just feel I've been really training at home better, doing the right things better, and my practices. I've seen, especially this year, how important it is to really do the right things in training, because you're not going to just go out there and do really well in matches if you haven't done it in the practices, and whether the fitness or the tennis and all of it. And I feel I've approached mentally my practices and everything a lot better this year than before, and it's showing, and I just keep getting better at that.
When you think about, or when you talk about the right things, can you specify? Is there anything in particular that you can give us?
It's the main thing is like the mentality of just how you approach each fitness or practice and trying to get better, and then on the court especially is focusing like just on my general game strategy on court with my coach, and just it's trusting. I mean, I can't give away like what I focus on exactly, but but it takes a lot of focus on a long time to do it, and I know if I focus really well out there, then it'll translate directly to the matches. So, yeah, that's my goal.
So you're not going to give away your trade secrets today on Chat with Champions?
No.
Come on, that's what the people are here for.
No,
I'm kidding.
Unfortunately not. But.
Fair enough. Well, I think if people are paying attention, I think they can maybe see some of those things on the court. Fun fact I learned about you the other day is up until yesterday, your first ATP Tour win or tour level win was against Tomas Berdych at the US Open, and that was the last match of his career. What was that like? I mean, gosh, he was probably somebody that you had watched on TV growing up.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the best for sure. He was consistently a very good player, but I mean, I had to win 3 tough matches before that in the qualifying too, which I think were that quality. But that was a great tournament. I'd won a couple futures before that, and I knew I could play at that level. But it was definitely exciting being in the atmosphere and realizing, like, confidence, like that's where my game can be, and just pushing to try to achieve more than that. That's motivation.
Is there a different feel when you're at a tour level event versus a challenger event? Obviously there's the size factor, but when you go on the court, are you able to think about it like any other match?
Yeah, I mean, I really am. It's just the mindset of how I approach every match is I mean, it's obviously in the back of your mind, you know what situation you're in, but I'm able to treat every match similar and like just focus on what I need to focus on, no matter if it's a futures or a slam or something.
So what are your goals, Jensen? Is there anything that you are working toward, even in 2021, that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I don't set ranking goals or anything like this. I just try to, work as hard as I can, improve what I can, and enjoy along the way, and see where it takes me.
I think that's a good strategy. It works in real life too, right? That translates to off the court as well. But I want to finish with a few rapid fire questions for you, get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
First one, what are 3 words that you would use to describe your personality? Or describe yourself, we'll say.
Okay, I'd say competitive, definitely, I think has to top the list. I'd say motivated. Third one, I don't know, just enjoying the process, maybe.
Are you a jokester? Are you pranking people? What's going on off the court?
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to have fun. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily the funniest guy, but I don't know. I just try to enjoy new things and try to explore. Not like video games or things like that.
Okay. So what is the thing that you like to do to relax when you have downtime? What can we find you doing?
Yeah, I have an electric piano at my house actually, so I love playing piano. Just hanging with friends. I love going to like river spots, nature and things like that. Those are more relaxing things for me, so I enjoy that.
All right, I have a follow-up on the piano question.
Okay.
When did you start playing? Do you actually travel with any sort of musical instrument? Is it a release for you?
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's hard to travel with the piano. There's no small piano like a guitar.
There's no small version, no travel version of your piano.
There's like smaller guitars you could, but I mean, I try to play whenever I'm at home, and I have lessons sometimes when I'm back. And but I started when I was, I'd say, 10 or so.
Very cool.
So I really enjoy that.
We can get you, Felix, and Ugo Humbert can have a piano off at some point. That would be great.
Yeah, like a.
Jensen's like, please no, let's not.
Not a duet, a triplet.
Yeah. There you go, trio. A little piano trio.
Yeah,
that would be fun. Okay.
Fun.
Are you a nap guy or a no nap guy?
No naps, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Early morning, late night guy. Night owl or
early morning.
Early morning person.
Yeah.
You seem very industrious, Jensen. I feel like you are perhaps more productive than most of us in a day.
Yeah, I'm used to getting up early and get started, so
good stuff.
That, yeah.
All right, what is your best tennis memory?
Best tennis memory. I don't seem to remember things that well from when I was younger, because I feel like it'd be a lot of fun those. But I mean, I'd say probably both U.S. Open experiences, just because of the crowd and the atmosphere and stuff is really cool. I mean, that's probably my favorite. But I mean, this is honestly up here with just how cool the city is and stuff. And
pretty great.
So yeah, just hopefully every week will be a great experience. Is my goal.
All right, last but not least, because we're at the Hall of Fame, Jensen, we have to ask a historical question. If you
Okay.
could have dinner with a Hall of Famer, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh, that's a big question. I don't know almost anything about the Hall of Famers,
Well,
honestly.
we can
But
think. Let's start here. Did you look up to any players or any American players growing up? Was there anyone who you watched and thought, hey, I like the way that they go about their business?
yeah, I mean, I I don't watch too much tennis, honestly.
Really?
So not like especially from the past, not really. But I mean, I know the best from the past, and
Agassi, Sampras.
yeah, those guys and
Yeah.
Roddick's and stuff,
Yeah.
and they were awesome. But I mean, they all worked really hard to get where they are, and I hope to be like one of those guys one day. So.
Good stuff. Well, Jensen Brooksby, it was a pleasure to talk to you, to get to know you a little bit better today, and best of luck in your second round match. Thanks for joining
Yeah,
us.
thanks so much.
And that is it for our first round of Chat with Champions today. We are going to be back in just a few minutes with Kevin Anderson. We'll see you then. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Chat with Champions. We just spoke with Jensen Brooksby, and we are now joined by a South African, Kevin Anderson. He's been ranked as high as number 5 in the world. He's a 2-time Slam finalist. And Kevin, it's so great to see you in Newport. First time since 2008. Why did you decide to make a return trip?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's kind of strange to think last time here I was 22 years old, and 13 years later I'm back again. The tournament was kind enough to give me a wild card this year. It's always been a little more time to switch from the clay to the grass to the harder surface. So that's why it's been a little bit challenging for me to play Newport. But this year unfortunately had an early exit in Wimbledon, and just with not playing so many tournaments with a few injuries, I thought it would be a great opportunity to try and come, and that's why I'm here.
Fantastic. And you mentioned you were here when you were 22 years old. Would you have ever imagined at that point that you would be a 2-time major finalist, an Arthur Ashe humanitarian of the...
I had a lot of belief in myself and worked really hard, so it's definitely great what I've been able to achieve, and hopefully there's still more on the table. At least I believe there is, but yeah, I mean, you never know. There's no guarantee, so obviously it's great that I was able to fulfill quite a few of my my dreams and ambitions back then, well, throughout my career. And it's always strange to think, just because I'm in the middle of my career, so I don't like to reflect too much, sort of set my sights ahead of me, and that's what I'm hopefully going to be able to do still.
On how you got started playing tennis, there aren't a ton of tennis players that have come out of South Africa. Why did you first pick up a tennis racket?
Well, tennis was always big in my family, and it was my dad who coached me and my brother, right the way growing up. And I think it was a really good match. I think he really wanted me to, pursue tennis, and it was something that I loved from a very young age. We were fortunate enough to have a tennis court at our house, so that made it, really easy. But
that's nice.
Just so much time, was spent there. And I always worked really hard, even as a sort of young kid. It was something that I think fit my personality very well. Yeah, I mean, tennis has been the centerpiece of my life, since I can remember. As you said, we had quite a rich history of South African tennis players, especially like in the 80s and the 90s. It's been a little bit less in recent years. Hopefully we're able to change that around, but busy club tennis social scene, so there was a lot of people playing, and obviously watching the pro events around the world as a young kid.
When you were watching those events, was there anyone in particular that you looked up to or thought, that's how I want to go about things?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I really modeled my game after anybody. I really enjoyed and sort of followed Pete Sampras a lot. I mean, obviously the way he was able to have so much success and sort of time and time again, I think was something that I really enjoyed and at least enjoyed watching. I remember watching a lot of really close matches. I just was a big tennis fan. I think whatever was on, I would really enjoy watching it, and it was great to sort of see, as I got older, understood how the tour works, and make that transition myself.
Was the plan always to go to the States and play?
Until my last year of juniors, where I remember one day I got a coach who was the coach at UNLV, and we had a long conversation, and up until then we didn't really even know anything about college tennis. And I think the more we sort of looked into it, we realized it was going to be a really good opportunity for me to bridge a gap between junior tennis and professional tennis. The challenge living in South Africa was just very far from the tennis world, so having a base to travel from was going to be difficult. Going back to South Africa and in the United States, where I was able to travel to many more tournaments more easy, I think was really good. And I think also at 18 I needed a little bit more time to just keep developing my game, and I think it ticked a lot of boxes.
What was the biggest building block that college tennis provided you with before making the jump to?
Well, I mean, I think there was actually a few. I feel like one of the things actually is I always felt, just coming from South Africa, I was always a little bit intimidated traveling internationally, and they seem to know each other. They seem to be very at home at these events. They're often traveling with pretty big teams, coaches, and physios, and I don't think, especially as a junior, I sort of gave myself enough belief in my game. And I think just being in the States and just surrounding myself with these players was at least a pretty big stepping stone for me. I remember even just after a year being in the States, I remember pretty much beating all of them. And I think that was just me sort of finding a little bit more belief, a little bit more familiarity and comfort in those sort of circles. So I think that was a pretty big one. In my game physically, I think I developed quite a lot in those few years. And but even when I turned pro, I was just always constantly looking at ways to improve.
I've talked to a lot of tall guys, Kevin. I can't obviously relate to this, but some of Sevi Korda, for instance, who is close to your height, maybe a couple of inches shorter, said that there was a time period where he grew maybe 8 inches over the course of 6 or 7 months. Did you ever have a time period like that where the growth really affected your play on the court?
I mean, I was always really tall, even from a little kid. Like in my class, I was always pretty much the tallest person. And then, I mean, in my late sort of teenage years, I went from being tall to sort of really tall. I mean, in terms of affecting me, I mean, I think there was just probably stages going through growth spurts where I remember my back was giving me some issues, and it wasn't anything you could actually point to. It was probably just, growing. And in terms of affecting my game, not really, because I feel like even though, I was pretty tall, the sort of things we were focusing on, the basics we were working on, we sort of kept that consistent. I think it was even sort of more towards, my early sort of professional days when, there was a few areas I needed to sort of focus a little bit more on. But sort of that base, I think was, has always been there.
Good stuff. Kevin, you are one of 2 players here in Newport who are in Novak Djokovic's path to his 20th career major title. And you, of course, played Novak in the 2018 Wimbledon final. He's the talk of the tennis world right now. I just would love to get your perspective on what makes him so impenetrable in the biggest matches.
Well, I think there's a few things right now. I mean, I think just taking the court, obviously there's, as you said, there's a lot of sort of talk. I mean, it's always been like that. I think anytime you play one of the top guys, just finding the right mental space to give yourself a chance. I feel like, myself included, I've played those guys a lot, and in hindsight, I think, it's tough to say, but I think a bunch of matches, you've almost sort of lost the match before going out there because you're not taking that same belief that you're going to find a way to win this match. It's almost like you're going there and sort of hoping to see how things are going, and that's not going to get the job done. So obviously that comes with them winning so many matches, and in this instance Novak winning so many matches. So I think that's the first sort of hurdle, and once you cross that, obviously then you can look at obviously all the strengths that he brings. His defensive plays stand out, but even if you saw in the finals, the talk was Berrettini needed to keep the point short, but Novak actually did better than him in those sort of quick encounters. So his serve's definitely underrated, even though he's not hitting it as fast as many other players. He hits his spots very well. It's a very tough serve to read. He mixes it up a lot, especially the second serve, and you can see throughout the championships he did a really good job of holding serve, and he's always going to be in a lot of return games.
You talk a little bit about his strategy. I know against Berrettini, he was sort of with that second serve. It didn't look impressive, but he was putting it in just the right spots to get the job done. In tennis, how important is IQ off the court? So say you're a smart person. Does that translate to tennis IQ, or do you feel like that's completely separate?
It can help, but it can hurt a lot.
Sure.
I mean, I think off the court by nature, I often think through things, and that I feel like has helped me on the court, but has also been a big Achilles heel. In some ways, you want to be not thinking too much. I mean, obviously you need to identify and sort of see what's going on the court, but that doesn't require, it requires more sort of experience than anything else, and being able to assess what's going on. And then the biggest thing is shutting off your mind and just trusting your athletic instinct, the abilities, and all the hours you've put out there. And I think sometimes, it's definitely easy to overthink things a little bit too much. So I think it's a bit of a battle that you have to fight. I know from my instance, it's been something that I really have to work on, to switch off sort of my thinking brain and go more into just my sort of competitor brain.
Very interesting. All right, I want to finish with some lighter questions,
Sure.
Kevin. This is one that people get asked all the time, but I feel like I've always gotten different answers to it. So I want to ask you as well. Your daughter Kira, as I mentioned, is here with you. How has that changed you as a person, becoming a dad?
Oh, I mean, geez, it's such a different experience. I mean, it's been really rewarding so far, and just seeing, her development sort of day in and day out is really fascinating. She's just at that age where you can really start interacting with them all.
Yep.
So that's been really fun. In terms of tennis, I feel like fortunately my wife's been really supportive and understanding of what I'm trying to achieve. So it's really helped me still find that sort of balance where I can still find time to do what I need to do from a tennis career standpoint. But I think a big thing, it's you can really sort of see that separation between sort of my profession and my tennis life versus my home life, if you want to call it that. And right now she doesn't really care if I'm winning or losing. So, but it's been overall it's been really great. It's been obviously a little bit challenging that they're not being able to travel, so I can't talk too much about the differences on tour with them. They've come to a few events. Obviously, logistically, it's been a pretty big adjustment. But so far it's been a really great experience.
All right, the big question, Kevin. You're married to a collegiate golfer. You are a professional tennis player. Which sport do you think, Kira? Does she have any tendency right now?
No, actually, she hasn't shown too much interest in
in balls,
in balls or the sporting scene so much. But I mean, I think obviously it's big passions in both our families, tennis and golf. So we'll definitely encourage her to play both, and I guess time will tell to see which one she picks.
Fair enough. And finally, Kevin, because we are at the Hall of Fame, I want to finish up with the same Hall of Famer type question that I've asked everyone else, and that is, if you could have dinner with any Hall of Famer, past or present, who would it be and why?
I mean, there's a lot of people to choose from. I think one person who I've sort of gotten to spend a little bit of time with, but not enough, I think, is Rod Laver. I think it would be great to, talk to him and just, I think the stories back then, I think he would have, you would be able to fill a few hours just with how much times has changed. I think there was, I'm pretty sure some really interesting experiences, and I'd just be so interested to know, especially at that time, the transition between amateur to when the tour started, and obviously the way he was able to, have so much success. I think he would be a really interesting dinner partner.
All right, the Rocket, you heard it here.
Exactly.
Kevin Anderson, thank you so much for joining us for Chat with Champions, and
Anytime.
we'll see you in the second round.
Thank you.